It's funny you used that phrase before. I forgot that I was alive when you were watching it. That's actually a pretty good way of articulating what it is, because I remember watching Mandy the first time too, and I think Zach and Adam were with me when we did it. But we sort of just forgot we were watching a movie.
Yeah.
There's something about it. It's not only like a dreamlike quality or like a transcendent drug trip type quality, but it's so specific in its imagery and its style. Yeah. It's like, this is just something that's naturally occurring. This is not like a manufactured work of entertainment or art, because no one could possibly like dream this up with a camera and actors and a soundstage. You know? Right. There's like something like so like just perfectly strange and unusual about it. It's like only nature could come up with something like this, not like a crazy guy named Panos.
Right. I also love the way that even though it's literally just sight and sound, it finds a way to captivate all of your senses.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just nothing can distract you.
Oh, no way. Once you put that movie in, you're in it. Like, you're watching the whole thing. You might even restart it when you're done.
Yeah.
I think I did. Like twice, maybe.
Well, I didn't. I had a hard time figuring out when it started because the title card is like 2 hours in.
Yeah, that's true too.
So it is pretty tricky to follow that movie.
And so after I saw Mandy, I was like, what else has this guy made? This is so cool. I want more. And it was like only Beyond the Black Rainbow. And I have the TCL Roku built-in TV or whatever. So I used that Pluto TV app. Mm-hmm. And I remember scrolling through and seeing that movie. And I saw it on like, remember iTunes? The iTunes store used to have like a trailer like area where you could look up trailers. Yes. And I can't remember when this movie came out.
2010 is
it 2010?
Yeah.
I remember seeing this trailer and being like, oh, that looks creepy. And like when it came out, and I scrolled through on Pluto and saw it, and I was like, holy crap, the stars aligned. It's here. I'm not going to ignore this movie. I'm going to watch it. And I just fell in love with it. It was everything I wanted. Like, I wanted more Mandy, and I got it through this.
Okay.
What do you like better?
So really quick, you're telling me that this is the only other movie he's made?
Yes.
Is that So is that a 9-year gap?
8.
Or 8-year gap?
8, yes.
That's a long gap.
Yeah, and then I looked him up before, and he's not doing anything, like no new projects or anything. I think he's producing something, but...
Man, I wonder why a large movie studio wouldn't give this guy any cash to work with. Like,
he doesn't need it. I looked up a lot about him.
So, I know you're saying that sarcastically, but like in reality, I am wondering that because...
No, these things are not accessible at all. Like,
But the amount of shit they put out, like, why wouldn't they fund it? I don't know.
Do you want
Mandy
like the MCU to give him like Doctor Strange 3? I mean, I don't know. Like,
well, no, I don't want that.
No, there's no way this guy's gonna make any money. But that's fine. That's cool. Like, it's okay that it's reserved for us. But I mean, I don't know.
He's playing the stocks for 8 years until he makes enough to make another film. Is that what you're saying?
I think what he's really doing is he's collecting Tombstone royalty checks because his father directed Tombstone.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big secret. Yeah,
he's saving up to
I think it's Tombstone, it's Tombstone, Cobra, and I think it's Predator 2.
So it kind of is like the stocks. He waits for the Tombstone, those checks to go up, and he waits for Nicolas Cage to gamble all his money away,
right?
So that he can buy him for cheap. Okay, got it.
It's a real Moneyball approach to filmmaking. You know,
right.
it's
okay. You can ask something.
Yeah. So no, what do you like better, Beyond the Black Rainbow or Mandy?
Oh man, that's a really tough question. I don't know.
No, it's not.
Yeah, not much liberation for me either, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna go with Mandy.
Okay.
But I do love this movie. It is still a 10 out of 10 for me.
There's a lot to talk about in this movie, but Mandy was something else, man. That was a real transcendent experience. This movie was transcendent in a way I didn't like. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like one brought me to a higher plane of existence, and I feel like this one, like, separated my organs from my body. You know?
Which I think was the intended effect.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Still, it was a lot.
I think I'm with you on that. Here's my take, right? Like,
I liked it though. I want to be clear. This is not me saying I didn't like the movie.
I also don't think it's a bad movie. Here's how I look at it. Although these two movies share a lot stylistically. I mean, Panos loves his crossfades. Panos loves his neon colors. Panos loves his slow-moving pace. Loves all that shit. And they're present in both movies. I do think they are two distinctly different genres. I think Mandy is squarely like a grindhouse thriller. It's violent. It's a revenge tale. It has elements of sci-fi, but really it's just about a guy trying to avenge his dead wife. And like that's sort of a genre that is easy for me to sink my teeth into, despite how weird the style is. This movie is way more horror than Mandy, and it's way more like bloody midnight movie genre stuff. And I think like you have to appreciate that sensibility in order to appreciate this one. I think you have to be a guy like Panos, who I read a little bit about him on Wikipedia before we started doing this today, who like grew up watching 80s horror movies. Actually, I'll tell you the specific anecdote that I read online. Panos used to go to a video store with his parents, and he would scroll through the lines, and he went to the horror section, but he was not allowed to rent any movies from the horror section. So he would just look at these covers, and the way he tells it, he would imagine what the plot of the movie would be without having actually seen the movie. So the inspiration for Beyond the Black Rainbow was, I want to create the 80s horror movie that doesn't exist. And I want to fill it in my head.
That's really interesting, because right at the end of the movie, did you guys watch past the credits?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually.
There's
I feel like I did.
5 seconds at the most. They show one of those weird figures in that weird suit, that weird spacesuit looking thing.
The baby thing?
The Sentionaut, I think.
Yes,
is what it's called.
Yeah, that's what it's called, Sentionaut. They show one of those, but it's laying on the floor, and it's clearly laying on a carpet, and it's clearly also an action figure.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yes, I do remember that.
And in my head, I'm thinking, like, was this meant to sort of show you that this is all, like, from the eyes of a child? And now that you mentioned that I was just kind of bullshitting when I thought that in my head, and I wasn't even going to bring it up, to be honest. But you're actually making me think that there's some actual something to it.
Yeah, I think also the movie is set in 1983 because I think his father might have put out his first movie in 1983, something along those. There's a significance to that date, so it's not a coincidence that this was a period piece. Like, he is telling this as an adult after both of his parents passed away, and he's gone through all this shit, and now he's returning to movies, which is the industry that he grew up surrounded by, and he's like playing in his toy chest, which I think is all well and good. And I think like there's a certain type of movie viewer that appreciates something like this.
Like Adam would have loved this movie.
Oh, Adam would have fucking adored this.
He would have loved this movie.
Yes.
And I mean, there's really, when I look at it, there's two types of like filmmaker. There's the filmmaker who likes telling a story through the medium of film, like a storyteller. And there's those who just like the art of filmmaking, and they don't really care if they're telling you a story. They don't even care if the story makes sense. Yeah. It's more about the experience of the actual art of the film and how it guides you along, right? It doesn't matter what the destination is, or even if there's like a message, it's the art of it. And I think Panos is absolutely like a master of this. I mean, his lighting is incredible, like we said. Just especially in this movie, actually more than Mandy, I think.
Who shot this thing? Is it like a well-known cinematographer?
There was a cinematographer credit.
Norm Lee.
But I think the lighting in this, the blues and the reds and the black and white shots that they did, it was like, I mean, it was just something. It's hard to describe even. Normally I'd be like, oh, it sort of illustrates like the good and evil, but it didn't even do that.
It's so specific. It's so like,
and the sound is like beautiful. I love that type of synth music.
Yep.
And they use it really well.
Very period too.
It's
very
jarring 80s. And it's just it's pleasant and jarring at the same time, I think, is maybe the way I want to describe it.
Well, it's certainly like a trance, right? Like it has that quality where it hypnotizes you. I think it's that. I do think, though, going back to the whole genre thing, like just a guy who was dipped in a vat of like magic goo and got psychic abilities and no longer has irises or hair and goes around like eating people, like that genre shit just doesn't appeal to me. Like I would much rather watch. I want Nick Cage fighting a dude with a chainsaw. That's what I want. And the second you put all the psychic shit in there, I'm out.
It is a little unfair to compare the two movies because Nicolas Cage is in one of them.
It's true.
Like, I'm being dead serious here, right? It's a little unfair.
What is it about this movie that speaks to you, Romi?
I like weird movies. I just like the weird stuff. I feel like so many people watch the blockbusters and the same directors over and over and over. And like, this is something weird it's not made for mainstream. It's not made for, the big theaters. It's not made to make money. The guy just made it because he wanted to make it. And I think that's as simple as it gets. If you really want to look into it, there's a million things that you'll find. But I think really this guy just wanted to make this film for himself, and he did it. And whoever was a part of it, like you said, Nick, like they put their all into it. This is their best. And I have it going on right now, and he just went into the goo. No, I love this type of film. It's just weird. It's so different. I try to watch movies where if somebody's like, "Hey, what have you watched this weekend?" I could tell them, "Oh, I saw this," and they're like, "What the hell is that?" And then that person will watch it. I feel like that's my goal on Earth. That's what I want to do.
You want to freak people out by recommendations?
Yeah, I just want to show people films that like would get overlooked if you didn't know somebody who saw it, who recommended it.
Does that mean you watch this every weekend, just in case somebody asks you, what did you watch this weekend?
I watch weird movies every weekend. So weird movies.
I just distinctly remember last time we spoke to you, you said Beyond the Black Rainbow is my favorite movie.
At that time, yeah.
And I just feel like that's a weird thing to say.
Listen, if you're ever asked the question, what's your favorite movie, and the answer doesn't make the other guy be like, what's up with that guy? You don't have a good answer.